On the same day that Justin Verlander is traded back to the Astros, Framber Valdez makes history. Final out, ball game. That is a no-no for Valdez. Little flare there from Cam Gallagher. Jeremy Pena makes the catch. The first lefty in franchise history to throw a no-hitter. Third no-hitter this season. We saw combined. We saw a perfect game. And now we have seen a solo no-hitter. Only batter that got on base was a walk in the fifth inning. It's the only base runner for Cleveland. Framber Valdez retired the first 12 batters he faced, 6 strikeouts before that walk in the fifth. Look, he is a tough pitcher to face. He's got this fastball that rises on you, and it's very deceptive to hitters. And a team like the Cleveland Guardians, which is not all that great of a hitting team, and they, sold a little bit at the deadline here. They traded Josh Bell to the Miami Marlins, and they traded one of their pitchers to the Rays. So I'm not really sure what the Guardians are doing, but the Astros are trying to get back to the World Series. They get Justin Verlander on the same day that Framber Valdez throws a no-no. Get some instant analysis. Welcome in former Marlins president David Samson, who helped the club win a World Series in 2003. David, what a day, right? The Astros trade for Justin Verlander, and Framber Valdez throws a no-hitter.
Who needs Verlander? You've got the best pitcher in baseball. In all seriousness, the game after the deadline, very important. When you look at the slate tonight, 2 things. 1, the Texas Rangers, not happy. You see what Verlander, Astros, and then you've got to deal with Valdez as a second starter. Every pitch he had, not just his fastball, his curveball. He didn't throw the changeup a lot. When he did, it worked. The Guardians really had no chance against him. He faced the minimum. 1 walk, immediately erased by a double play. So this was an important game to watch. But the other one I want to also mention to make sure we don't forget, what happened with the Yankees and them losing and not getting any hitters at the deadline. Your clubhouse knows whether you have their back. The Astros walked into this game saying, wow, Jim Crane wants the dynasty to continue. Valdez gets the ball, which is perfect timing for a post-deadline game where you want to win. You don't want to blow the save with your new closer like happened with the Marlins. The Astros come in, they throw the no-hitter, they get the win, inching closer to the Rangers. We are in for a great final 60 days of this season.
David, what did you see from Valdez on this night? Got a lot of ground ball outs. That's really what he does. And he's got that rising fastball that's very deceptive to hitters.
So we watched him in October, and the thing about Valdez is when he has more than 2 pitches working, he's the best pitcher in baseball. It doesn't happen every time he starts, but any starter, what you hope is that they have 1 for sure. Their secondary is above average. And if they can have a third pitch that they can throw, not just for strikes, but for actual swings, misses, or outs out of the zone, that's what you're hoping. And you don't see it often. And what you saw with Valdez is 4 pitches that were out pitches. And against a lineup like the Guardians that is anemic, as you described, and I'm sorry to say that.
Feeble.
As a Guardians fan, feeble is a good word, too. You're going to end up with a no-hitter. And first lefty, I did not know this when you said it, the first lefty in franchise history. What an unbelievable, historic moment for the first lefty to be Valdez and to do it on a night like this where there's so much hope for a team to repeat for the first time since the Yankees all the way back in 98 through 2000.
Yeah, how's this, too? This is the first solo no-hitter by an Astros pitcher since Justin Verlander in 2019. They had the combined one in the World Series last year, started by Christian Javier, and now they get a solo no-hitter from Framber Valdez, the first since Verlander in 2019. And Verlander's thrown three in his career. He's won 2 World Series titles with the Astros, and he's headed back to Houston. David, this day really couldn't get any better for the Houston Astros unless maybe Nolan Ryan went back like 40 years and decided to put on an Astros uniform, and then he was going to start pitching.
The best thing about the Astros is what they've been through. And you're right, it's a great day for them, but this is not a day that truly matters to the Astros, and I don't want to take anything away from Valdez and what he did and the history that was made. It's an incredibly dynamic, fantastic night. This team is about October. This team is about another ring. And you bring in Verlander. What you hope is that with him and Valdez at the top of the rotation, that any team they face going through the American League bracket will not be able to get through that gauntlet. You hope to get Alvarez back healthy. You see Altuve's back in the lineup. Don't forget about the MVP of the LCS, Pena, and the World Series. Don't forget about Tucker. Don't forget about Bregman. This is a deep, good team. Oh, by the way, their first baseman, no longer Gurriel. It's Abreu now, formerly with the White Sox. Don't even recognize the White Sox anymore. So they've added to their team, brought back Verlander, which means it's the same as last year plus Abreu, and that's exciting if you're an Astros fan.
Yeah, it certainly is exciting if you're an Astros fan. If you're a Guardians fan like myself, like what the heck was that? That was a feeble performance.
Be no-hit, Dermish.
Well, they were no-hit three times a couple years ago. Three times in one season.
So when you go into the clubhouse after being no-hit, you don't lock eyes with anyone. Everyone's hunched in their locker. No one's touching the food. Everyone's totally despondent because they're professionals and they're completely embarrassed. You don't want to be on the other side of a no-hitter. I've been on the other side of a perfect game, the Roy Halladay perfect game. It's mortifying. You're happy that you're seeing history, but you just don't want it to be you. You don't want to make the last out. You don't want to participate in it. Conversely, I've been a part of no-hitters, and when you go into the clubhouse, it's total jubilation. But the funny part is they'll come back to the park tomorrow. They won't even talk about it.
Oh, you're right. They'll flush it. The opposing team will just they'll have to flush it. You know what's crazy here too? So Framber Valdez completes this no-hitter on 93 pitches, a complete game, which is in baseball history is known as a Greg Maddux. Two things here. Greg Maddux, the Hall of Famer, never threw a no-no in his entire Hall of Fame career, and Framber Valdez in his last outing gave up 6 earned and 2 homers. And then that's the response. You go, that's baseball, Akeem. Yeah, I know it's baseball, but how do you explain this kind of weird part of the game in baseball? When you have these, like Greg Maddux never threw a no-hitter, Framber Valdez is an elite pitcher, I get that, but he was awful in his last outing, comes back and has a gem.
That's baseball, Akeem. wait, you, of all people, asking that question. What was that, fed to you in your earpiece by Stryker? What kind of question is that? That's why this is the greatest game ever. Because if you've got talent, you are going to fail 70% of the time. If you win the Cy Young, you're going to have 4 to 6 stinkers throughout the season. It's just how it goes in baseball. There's no other sport like it. It's why we love it so much here at CBS. Don't we?
Stryker said he would never feed that kind of question to me ever. He said, how dare you put my name in that? I just think it's crazy, though. It is, though, right? A lot of times we go, that's baseball, Susan. Like, you know the whole thing with that. Like, yeah, I get it. It's odd. And like, to me, on the same day that they get Justin Verlander, it's just like you couldn't write the script, I guess, sometimes. It's like I always, how can you not get romantic about baseball? Because this stuff happens. And then look, you know me, a huge baseball fan, and for